Now then, witches and beautiful souls, welcome back to another wholesome episode of the Bell Witch podcast with me, Swailes, the friendly green witch up in Yorkshire. This is a podcast all about witching in the 21st century and finding the magic in everyday life. Last week it was Easter holidays and I was gallivanting round the north, up in Northumberland, where there's a castle around every corner, fantastic ales, fun things to do with the kids, magnificent beaches and a heap of folklore. A magnificent time as always, and felt thoroughly inspired to talk a little bit about folklore in an upcoming episode. And it meant that I also failed my attempt at doing weekly episode. So, there you go. Anywho, welcome to this episode. This is a Moot Loot episode with a lovely witch, Molly Donlan, who's written a book about Mundane Magic, which I actually own. Thank you very much to her publishers for sending me a copy. It's a really gorgeous book. The way it's written, the purple text is an absolute feast for your eyeballs. And Molly has her own podcast, as you probably know, Demystify Magic, which was probably one of the first witchy podcasts I started to listen to. She has such insightful knowledge and understanding about the woo-woo, but also the scientific and how the two work together, and she can speak about it in a really clear and easy to understand way, which is great for my messy, dyslexic and slightly ADHD spicy brain. It's so surprising to think that she used to be a skeptic and is now living her best life as a very knowledgeable witch, how the mundane magic can be made accessible and achievable in our busy 21st century lives. It's a cracking episode which I am going to split into two because it is very, very long, coming out originally over 1 hour and 11 minutes. Ooh, 1:11, how magical. I managed to edit it down to 1 hour without cutting too much gold out. And I think you're gonna rate like it. What else? Ooh, I got myself a field mic and I went around the Healing Alternatives Festival last weekend. I did a spot of Vox Pox and I thought I'd be nervous as hell. Turns out it was absolutely a right barrel of laughs and I loved it, absolutely loved it. And I spoke to quite a few stall holders and a couple of visitors. I had ram horns on and a witchy crown because that's how I roll. But it just made me laugh how when you walk up to people holding a microphone in your hand, they are those that smile and wave, and then there are also those that recoil in horror. So it was a very easy and helpful filter, knowing who I should talk to and who I should not. Oh, was it your dress sense? Definitely enough for a podcast episode, so stay tuned for that. Now I've got this new gizmo gadget, I'm thinking about all kinds of cool stuff I could do, walking around and podcasting. A little bit inspired by Witchy Woman Walking, which is another fabulous witchcraft podcast, might I add. And then I was like, ooh, maybe I could do a podcast about being a wholesome human, or maybe I could do a podcast about being the PTA chair. Because I've got loads of time in my life to do this thing, for God's sake, Swailes. I'd like to welcome my new Patreon subscription member, Kat G, who has joined the Bell Witch podcast Patreon to help fund this little adventure. So thank you so much for believing in me and joining. Everybody who joins, honestly, thank you so much. I know sometimes it may be fleeting and that's all right because life is a bit expensive at the moment. How much? But every time I get a new member, it fills my heart with absolute love and magic and joy, and also confidence that I'm all right at this gig. Before I press play on the interview, if you are able to vote the Bell Witch podcast in the Golden Lobes Listener Choice Award, this is an award ceremony in May in London, and I'm desperate to win a big golden ear trophy. The photograph opportunities would be marvellous, like fun with perspective. I'm also shortlisted for Best Artwork and Best Blooper Reel. Luckily for me, I actually keep the bloopers as I edit and make a bit of a bonus for the Patreons. So it was just handy dandy that I had that line around to enter. And the third is the listener's choice. So please, honestly, if you have got a moment, it doesn't take long, please find the Bell Witch podcast and give it a vote. I shall add the link in the show notes. It would mean the absolute world. I think the deadline's very soon. So thank you very much. All right, I'll let you enjoy the episode.
Welcome, dear listener, to another fabulous Moot Loot episode. Joining me today is a brilliant guest hailing all the way from Maine, USA. She's a professional witch, Reiki Master, crystal healer, magical author and co-host of a fabulous witchy podcast. Not too long ago, she was actually a hardcore skeptic. May I warmly welcome Molly Donlan of Demystify Magic.
I'm so excited to be here.
How do you do this?
Howdy doody indeed.
Don't quite have the same charm as the Yorkshire accent.
No, it's better in the accent. I think I should practice your accent for the next time I do my intro.
Yeah, amazing. It's so very surreal because Demystify Magic was probably the first podcast I really sunk my teeth into as a podcast listener.
Really?
So I can't believe you're here.
What an honor. Hell yeah.
And recently, it's evolved quite a lot, hasn't it, your podcast?
Yeah, grown with us in a really interesting way. Yeah, I think when we started the podcast, we really didn't have any expectations for it. We were just like two friends sending way too many voice notes back and forth to each other that we're like, we should make these public. And then, I don't know, next thing people are asking me to be on their podcast and expecting me to be a professional podcaster and asking me to write books. And I'm like, how did this happen?
Wow, amazing. Living the dream, that is. How is it you and Madison, like, on the video, like on the sofa and stuff? It's proper chat room vibes.
I know, that was so strange because we flew out to Chicago and recorded all of those episodes back to back in 2 days. So it was really this like frenzy of just locking in and just recording all these episodes. And then we didn't expect anyone to like them. And the first one went mega viral. And then we're like, oh no, now we have to figure out how we can do video like from our homes. And of course, we're across the country from each other. So it's like, how do we do that? But it's fun. It's the life of a podcaster. You never know what's going to come around the corner. And I don't know. I love it as a medium. It's just a really cool way to form deep connections with people.
It must feel quite different, isn't it? Because are you more aware of how you sat and what you're wearing? And...
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I bet.
Yeah, it was like, I don't think I've ever done my hair prior to recording an episode. And then it was like, because we recorded them all back to back, we wanted to do it bake-off style. So we had the same outfits for all of them. So it wasn't like, wow, you had these two episodes in this outfit and then these two in this one. And because we were batching them so much, we're like, okay, we need our hair to be the same. We need our outfits to be the same. We need everything to be the same. So then it was like between nights, I was like, okay, nothing can happen to these pair of jeans. There's no backup plan. And then I was very aware of like how I sit and yeah. But I think after the first couple of episodes, we really dropped into it and we were like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, you know, what we look like. People aren't here for our looks.
That is true. I was going to ask if you took some more clothes and did Lady Gaga changes between filming.
We should have. No, maybe next time. We wanted it to be continuous and we didn't know how much editing we would need to do because we'd never done the video thing for the podcast. So we were like, okay, it'll be easier for editing if we're wearing exactly the same thing and everything.
Of course, good point. Yeah,
I know. And then we didn't end up really editing it. So it was like a moot point.
And is there more coming? Are you going to do more videos?
Yeah, that's our hope. Our hope is to eventually do all videos, but it requires us to think about the space that we record in. And I can't just have my laundry behind me and the dogs climbing on everything and all of that. So eventually, maybe later in the year, we'll get our shit together. But for now, we're like, the podcast is successful because it feels really fun and easy. And we try not to stress ourselves out too much about it.
It is hard doing a weekly podcast.
Yeah, especially right now. We just really felt called to go deeper into a lot of topics in witchcraft. So we're doing this series on different aspects of witchcraft history. So we did an 1.5 hour long podcast on Gerald Gardner and the formation of Wicca and all those controversies. And then I think our Aleister Crowley episode is going to be closer to 2 hours long because there's just so much to unearth. And I'm like, I can't do more.
No, there's a lot. Yeah, you'd be reading all the books because there's tons out there on Aleister, isn't there? And the next big thing is, of course, your book. Mm-hmm. Congratulations on your new book. Could you tell us about it?
Yes, I'm so excited. It's called Mundane Magic, a lazy witch's guide to hacking your brain, building a daily practice, and getting stuff done. And it came out of the podcast. I think the podcast really helped me hone who I am as a witch. When we started the podcast, I wouldn't even call myself a witch. I was like, nah, that's not me. I just do spells and stuff. I'm not a witch. And the podcast really helped me step out of the broom closet I didn't even know I was in. And something that we've always talked about and shared on the podcast is low effort magic. What do you do when you feel like shit and your brain is going 100 miles an hour and you have a to-do list the size of your torso, and really creating rituals and magical practices that fit into your life rather than being one more thing that you put off and then feel guilty about. Mundane Magic is all about how you can take the things that are on that to-do list already, like folding your laundry, doing the dishes, paying your bills, getting the car washed, feeding the dogs, and adding magical spells to it so that the things you're doing in your day-to-day life become the ritual, and you start to infuse magic into all these areas of your life and also motivate yourself to do those things. And it just became a really fun, creative adventure that our community went on together. Every spell in the book was inspired by, I'd go on Instagram every week and I'd be like, all right, I'm in the living room chapter this week. What are you avoiding in that room? And that became the outline. Literally every single request I got went into this book. And, I was just talking to someone who got an early read of it and they're like, I couldn't think of a single thing that you missed in here. And I'm like, that is the point. Yeah.
Have you got a favorite one you could quickly tell us about?
Yeah. My favorite is, I am someone that when I go to bed, I bring a glass of water with me so I can take my meds and have a glass of water before bed. And what started to happen is I just found by the end of the week, I had 700 glasses of water on my nightstand. And then they started creeping onto the dresser and then onto my partner's nightstand. And it was like every surface. And then we had no cups in the kitchen and it was just a mess. And so the spell that I created for that was what I call the nightstand altar. So you turn your nightstand into an altar, because I don't know about you, but my altar might be messy, but it's organized chaos. I'm not just dropping random stuff on there. There might be some candle wax and dog hair, but it's all very strategic. These are necessary dog hairs. And so I thought to myself, if I treat my nightstand like an altar with the intention for sleep, and that glass of water, when I set it down and I go to sleep, becomes a protection spell, an offering to protect me from unwanted energy while I'm sleeping, or to capture any emotions I'm off-gassing in my dreams, then now it has a purpose. And when I wake up, I feel inspired to take that glass of water and pour it down the drain, release that emotion, or feed it to my plants and transmute it. One of my favorite sections of the book, it actually walks you through how you can create an altar on your nightstand, and you can use it for that purpose, or to imbue your lip balm with whatever intention you have, or create a sleep bowl with crystals and herbs that can help you actually rest your mind and things of that nature. Or if you want to get into dream magic, you can keep your journal there. And right now, I just checked, I don't have a glass of water sitting anywhere in my room. Like sometimes I got one or two, but no longer do I go searching for glassware. So it is working. But that's so probably my favorite. Yeah.
I must admit, my nightstand next to my bed is a mess. But it's books. I've got like towers of books.
Yeah.
And crystals and bracelets that you take off before you go to bed, water to drink. And I've also got a puppet there that I say goodnight to. And
Yeah. And I think my nightstand doesn't look too different than it did before, but it feels really different. And so I treat it differently. And I think that's really the magic in Mundane Magic is, even though you're still folding your laundry like you did before, it feels different and the intention is different. And so you approach it differently. And isn't that what magic is all about?
Absolutely. Brand new lens to look through your life at. Have you got anything about what would you say, hoovering? Is it when you're
Oh, yeah. Vacuuming. We call it vacuuming.
I'll do it back. I call it hoovering. I don't know if that's a Yorkshire thing or a British thing. Or...
I think it's a British thing. Yeah. Hoover was a brand of vacuum. So that's, I think, where it comes from. Yeah. Do you have a stick vacuum or do you have a robot vacuum?
I've got a robot vacuum and a stick one.
Okay.
The robot one is retired now. It's called Stanley, but it don't work anymore. But it's funny because half an hour before we were due on to record, I started cleaning up the house and vacuuming. And my husband's looking at me going, what are you doing? Are you not recording like half an hour? Shh, I need to do this. I need to do this because it makes me feel better. Okay.
Gotta clear the energy. Yeah. If you have a Stanley, if you have a robot vacuum, you can use masking tape and put a sigil on it, draw a sigil with masking tape. You can also attach crystals to it that are flat so it can move that energy and that intention throughout the space. And then for a stick vacuum, a couple of things I really like to, if you have carpet, I like to hoover a sigil into the carpet before I make my carpet lines. And then another one that is very fun is if you vacuum up some herbs, just dry herbs or cotton balls with essential oils on them, then you pick those based on their magical properties. And then that starts to infuse your space with that intention. And you can actually smell it as the air pulls through the vacuum. And then I also like to think of while you're vacuuming, you're actually picking up all of that stagnant energy in your space. That's why it makes you feel better, right? Because all of that stagnant energy is sitting in the dust and the debris and the nooks and the crannies and the dirt and the grime and whatever in our space. That's why we feel so much more motivated and energized in a space that feels cleaner or feels more organized. And so just shifting your focus to, I'm not vacuuming my space. I'm spreading a new intention and clearing out the energy holding me back from that intention. And then when you release the bag at the end or you empty the vacuum, however you do it, you just send that energy away.
So I'm not totally bananas. There is something there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, for sure. No, it's whether you look at it through a mundane lens or a magical lens, I think everyone can agree. I mean, for me, when I'm really stressed out and I'm really busy, my desk and my office are a mess. It's just like the chaos in my environment reflects the chaos in my mind and vice versa. When I have a really chaotic day, a really stressful day, sometimes just taking 5 minutes and clearing my desk helps me clear my mind. And so when we start to become aware of that, then we can start to infuse that into our practice. And now it's not just I'm cleaning my desk. It's I'm clearing my mind. I'm clearing that old energy. I'm clearing that stress away and I'm welcoming in focus or I'm welcoming in ease or I'm welcoming in whatever the intention is.
I think there's overlap with feng shui as well because like
Totally.
I say, you're literally out and moving the energy around.
Oh, yeah.
I love hoovering. I love it.
You can come to my house anytime. Come on over. I got dog hair you can suck up every day.
I stick googly eyes on all the vacuums. I don't know why.
Oh, draw a sigil on the back of those googly eyes before you stick them on.
It's so funny watching something go around with their eyes.
I love it.
I know you mentioned that you're out the broom closet, but you don't know when that happened. How was it becoming aware of your witchy ways? Because I know how Reiki, the story about how you discovered Reiki and that sort of overpowered your scepticism. So did witchcraft follow that gradually? Or was there a moment when you were like, yes, I'm a witch?
Really, it was through the podcast. If you listen to the podcast from the beginning, you can probably clock each of the moments. But it really, my podcast co-host, Madison, I always say is the catalyst to me, like really stepping into the title of witch, which really is stepping into a more authentic version of myself, right? Because I think I had always been drawn to magic, which is what I would call it now, but I don't think I had the language for it. And I don't think I had the permission for it because for a long time, I didn't know witches were real. I remember my Reiki teacher claiming the title witch. And she was like, yeah, I'm a witch. And I was like, nah, you're so funny. And she was so serious that I remember looking around the room and being like, what does that mean? What? That was literally, I was like 26 and that was the first time I'd ever met someone that said witch outside of the context of Halloween Town. And I don't know if Halloween Town is popular over where you are, but it's very popular over here.
Yeah.
And so I think that was my first moment where I was like, what? Huh? And really meeting Madison was the first person deeply intertwined with my life that openly practiced witchcraft, and seeing that she was doing things that I also did, and she believed things that I also believed, and she held values that I also hold, I think just gradually opened me up to this idea that, oh yeah, I am a witch. And you know what? Claiming it is really freaking cool. And so really it was through just my friendship with Madison, but also the podcast. I think we both really, I think the magic of the podcast that our listeners have really clocked for us is that we've stepped more and more into our own magic as we've shared publicly and been really vulnerable and open with the world about that journey. So yeah, it really, I don't think it was even a title I would have claimed 4 years ago. I think it really has been over the last 3-4 years, but the concept of mundane magic has been deeply entwined in my life for the last 10 years. It's just, I finally have felt free enough to name it what it is or call it what it is, but not really care what people think about it. Like, yeah, I'm a witch, and
Yeah, good place to be.
yeah.
You'll understand too with podcasting. I always say in my life, like witchcraft, Reiki, and podcasting, them three things are like some kind of golden trio that has transformed my life.
Yeah.
The chakra of literally speaking, but also it being heard by people who are interested and passionate is just so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's also, I've been a creator on the internet doing this type of work for 6.5 years now. But podcasting was the first space that I really felt safe to be truly me. Like I felt like there's something about this medium where you can go into the nuance and also trust that. I always used to tell Madison, nobody hate listens to a podcast for 45 minutes.
No,
They're not going to. And if they are, then we're like on like Mel Brooks level, Mel Robbins, we're on that level. And so for me, it's always just felt like this safe space where I can explore the nuance and explore my own practice and be really vulnerable and authentic. And I think that's what gives other people permission to do the same, because when you're loudly vulnerable, it makes other people feel less alone and you're heard, but they're also seen at the same time, which is just like this beautiful. It's just, I love podcasting so much. I love podcasting. I love listening to podcasts. I love the community that we've developed through podcasting. And I think the witchy podcasts in general, I have yet to meet a witchy podcaster that is an asshole. Like we don't really compete with each other either. We're like, when I see another witchy podcast in the charts, I'm like, hell yeah, you knock that Bible podcast out of the top 10. You do that. I think is so unique to this space, this medium, and this niche.
Yeah, the community is gorgeous, isn't it? And I feel so connected.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I wish I'd done it years ago.
Same. Yeah. Yeah. It's just beautiful. Just the people who rally around a podcast. It's just, yeah, there's nothing else.
Yes. And it's a totally different way of consuming, isn't it, content, because it's long form. I find Instagram and TikTok really toxic for my health at the moment. It is just vile, if I'm honest, and I can feel myself pulling away from it, but I'm so much more interested in podcasting anyway, and it's harder to get listens, but every single download is just like gold. It really is.
Yeah. And I think podcasting really almost toughened my outer shell to be on those shorter form platforms, because I care less about the metrics on those platforms. I used to care a lot about the views and the follows and all of that. And I care less now, because if all Instagram does is help you find the podcast, then I don't care how many people are over there. And in shifting that mindset, my Instagram community has become so much like my podcast community. It's been like really this beautiful, like cyclical, where when I get the one-off hater, I'm just like, you're not for me. Bye. You're not for me. Thanks for weeding yourself out before getting to the podcast. And so, yeah, it's really just overall made me feel more comfortable as a creator in the witchy space.
And it's so fun to watch when you do your simmer pots, and I love it. Is that one of your favorite simmer pots?
I love anything that motivates me to clean my kitchen. That's the thing, is there's always one space in everyone's home that feels like every time I clean it and then I blink and it's a mess again.
Yes, the kitchen.
For me, it's my kitchen. For some people, it's laundry. Some people, it's their bedroom. Me, it's my kitchen. And the simmer pot is amazing because I use it to clean my kitchen. I try to race the simmer pot. So I'll make a simmer pot for like motivation or focus or something, whatever the intention is. I'll put it on the stove. I'll try to clean my kitchen as much as possible before it starts to simmer. And most of the time, I'm done just as it starts to bubble. And I'm like, wow, now I get to enjoy this simmer pot and sit down. And it's great. And it's just, I don't know. I've just found it's really easy and it's really doable. It makes people feel really capable of doing magic. It's a great entry point. You really can't screw it up. And even if you're not super witchy, it's, oh, this made my space smell good. This made my space feel good. I think that's why so many people resonate with it.
Do you drink it afterwards or do you clean with it?
I will often, for me, I like to do a prolonged simmer pot lately. So I will leave it on the stove and every day pour a little bit more water into it until it really gets disgusting, and then I'll compost it. But occasionally, if I have a really good one, like I feel like this one, I nailed it on this one, I will mix it with some witch hazel and turn it into a spray bottle and use it as like a room refresher for a little bit.
Yeah, I did that recently. I made like a slop because I'd overcooked it and it'd been there ages, and I was a bit like,
yeah,
probably not do anything with this, but
yeah, I've also definitely left them on the stove too long and either burnt them to a crisp, or I find there's like mold in them a few days later, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that one's gotta go.
Tasty.
Thank you for listening to this Moot Loot episode on the Bell Witch podcast. Tune in next week for the second half of Molly's interview. Stay magical, witches!